The Eagles improved to 6-0 with a 26-17 win over the Cowboys, and Week 6 won tonight with the Broncos heading to LA to take on the Chargers on Monday Night Football. The Major League Baseball postseason, the Yankees signed Garrett Cole for games just like yesterday. With the Yankees' 99-win season on the brink, Cole spun 7 sparkling innings for the New York Yankees, who afforded to win over the upstart Cleveland Guardians on Sunday.
Can't believe I don't talk. Can they hear me? I don't think they can. I don't talk baseball because I don't know baseball. Last time I played baseball, that's why these are so short. Because I got smacked in the mouth and I was leaking with blood. But I cannot believe that the Yankees are just flopping. My granddad will be proud. He hated the Yankees. He thought they were arrogant with their pinstripes. And then when the Tigers got their pinstripes, he was pissed about that. All right, we're going to talk college football with the Mannix brothers. They need a new goalpost. Yes, they do. Great job, Tay.
Thinking it is. What would you give me, the obvious 5-star rating, or would you be a liar? The Taylor Manning. Am I going through primary and two? I don't know. We're your brother in primary. Call 207-775-2217 or 1-866-811-9505. You're a good guy, though, Brad. I mean, brother is French. I don't know why I know that. I did 4 years of Spanish. You know hermano? Hermano is brother. And then, here's Mano. Mannix and Mannix begins now. Here's Jeff and Taylor. You are going to fail and bomb and gag and fail and bomb. Yalla. Let's go. Good afternoon. Welcome back into this Mannix Monday of Middays with Mannix and Mannix. Jeff and Taylor with you. We will open up the Joe Bornstein box office later on this hour for your chance to win tickets to next week's Monday Night Football game between the Pats and the Bears at Gillette Stadium. If you know that football phrase, we'll ask you to call in with it later this hour. But right now, we've got to talk college football with our man, former college football coach, now the host of the Catch Up with Coach podcast. Malik Hall joins us on the line right now. Malik, how are you doing here on this Monday?
Oh, man, what a weekend. I'm glad to catch up with Coach with you guys right now.
Well, down goes Bama. Seems to be the biggest storyline to me. There were a lot of them on Saturday, but anytime Alabama goes down, that seems to be a big one. So I'd like to start there with the Volunteers, the new number 3 in the country, knocking off Bama 52-49 in Knoxville.
That game was every bit of fireworks you wanted. I thought Tennessee came to play, jumped out on Alabama early on a 21-7. You're thinking, wow, like Tennessee's for real. I think my knee-jerk response was, okay, it's always good to say, hey, we're going to empty the tank on these guys. We're going to go at these guys, okay? But do you have the bullets to go at these guys, to injure them? No pun intended, or literally speaking, not literally speaking, but like, can you get after them? And what we weren't sure is, does Tennessee have the firepower to go after Alabama, to go after their secondary, to run the ball on their defensive line in front seven? And from the time the ref said go, Alabama jumped out on them. And you knew Alabama, look, Coach Saban has these kids socially, emotionally wired. The mistakes that Alabama made were uncharacteristic mistakes. They had more penalties than they had in a year, most likely. But going back to Tennessee, having some of the dudes to make Alabama pay for those mistakes. And that was what we saw. And even though Alabama does not blink, they don't panic. When Tennessee fumbled, they didn't just fall on the fumble. They picked the fumble up and scored. So you knew Alabama was not going to die easily. I put out on Twitter, Alabama is die hard. And so, but Tennessee got it done, and kudos to the Hooker kid. We talked about him in the past, potentially being a Heisman candidate. We said that this game would be the telltale for him, and hey, here we are.
Yeah, I think too another kid who made a statement for himself and probably put himself on a lot of draft boards was Jalen Hyatt as well. I mean, 5 touchdowns, 207 yards for Tennessee in the performance.
Yeah.
There's the famous picture now, standing next to Peyton Manning, smoking the victory cigars with holding up the 5, with the
Right.
celebration there, which is awesome. And I should mention too, because it was kind of his coming out party against Alabama, but last week against LSU, he had 2 touchdowns, 63 yards. So now he has 7 touchdowns in just 2 weeks on literally 10 receptions, and that to me is just incredible. I mean, what did you see in this kid and the plays he was doing? Does this kid look like he's got a future as a professional as well?
You know, I would say yes to the future in the NFL, but you also what he has that made him different was his run after catch and his big time catches. I mean, you know, and for him to be able to turn touchdowns into those catches, that's ultimately that's what will make you dynamic. If you have a lot of catches, a lot of yards, no touchdowns, just in a box score. Now, many people watch this game, but in a box score, you're like, well, he's not scoring. So he's either not making the big play or he's dropping the big play. All of the short catches or all of the 20-yard passes mean nothing if you can't convert them into points. And what he has shown in his resume so far is he's a touchdown machine. You know what I mean? And so now, will he have a whole bunch of receptions on the year? Probably not. They're halfway through it. People will wisen up and do some double coverage on him. But his yards after catch is what makes him special and being able to high point the ball. So, again, man, kudos to this whole team. That Alabama defense all tried to kill Bryson, I thought. They just played a great game to a great opponent that you know you're not going to keep down just because they had some mistakes. And the Hooker kid, he showed one flash where I thought he was going to emotionally let it go. And to your point, Tay, the Hyatt kid saved him.
Watching him play, I had seen him. I mean, he had a 166-yard performance against Arkansas, but not like Arkansas SEC, like some kind of crap,
right.
Division I team. But to see him do it against Alabama is just like, whoa.
Yeah,
that was definitely eye-opening to me.
He's going to, and the running backs. I mean, look, they had the whole game. And again, to beat Alabama, you can't just have one player. They had 2 running backs. Small went for 12 carries, 53 yards, and those 12 every time he touched the ball, it seemed like it was critical. And then Jalen Wright had 71 yards on 12 carries. So collectively, they got a nice 1-2 punch. They're handing the ball to the running backs at least 20 to 24 times. And then you have to stop Hooker as a runner. So they put everything on the line, and they got their pay dirt yesterday.
Well, speaking of running the ball well, the Michigan Wolverines sure did this week against the Penn State Nittany Lions. 418 yards on the ground total. Donovan Edwards running for 173. Blake Corum with 166. And that game was close at the half, but man, Michigan just played bully ball in that second half.
I watched this game and I think 2 things that I noted. Penn State came out on fire. I mean, defensively. In the first tackle, that was a big tackle, they threw a flag on Penn State. I think that stifled their defensive energy, sauce, juice, whatever it was. Because you knew Michigan was going to do short passes, bootlegs, play actions, but ultimately they want to run the ball. And it had to be a defensive group effort to knock that Michigan run game back. And unfortunately, between Edwards and Corum, like they just had a day. Corum, for one point, is one thing, okay? He's been doing 120 yards a game right now. But to let the second back go for 100 plus and 2 touchdowns, and you're right, Jeff, it was close at half. And I'm thinking, okay, wait a minute, Penn State might really push it. But this was the win that the Michigan fan base, including all of the Michiganian or Wolverine fans in New England, they needed to see a dominating Michigan ball club to even feel like this is going to be close at the end with Ohio State. And so this was step one to giving us a little bit of comfort. But now they got trap games in front of them. And anything other than a win is unacceptable. And that's the gift and the curse when you're a blue blood program.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of one of them in Clemson and switching to the ACC, and again, I should mention just before we leave the Big Ten, Illinois got a big win again, so your boys keep rolling.
That's the trap game. That's one of those trap games, Tank. That's one of them right there.
Right? No, they took care of business against Minnesota. Good win. Minnesota 1-2 now in the Big Ten. Illinois keeps rolling. So wanted to just give them a shout out for you before we left the Big Ten, and I brought up the ACC because looking even to next week, Malik, Syracuse undefeated. And our boys, Clemson, well, not our boys, but the boys, Clemson there, undefeated as well, going to square off number 4 versus now, well, I believe it's now Syracuse at number 14 heading into next week with that bump up. So that's going to be a big, big matchup between those two. Obviously, Syracuse took out NC State 24-9, and what I thought was a really impressive win, and then Clemson beat Florida State 34-28. What do you think about that crash course that will, in my opinion, really kind of decide who's the best in the ACC as of today?
You hit it on the nose with Florida State out the way. Look, this is, and shout out to Syracuse. Syracuse has had in Dabo's run, Syracuse has been the thorn in their side. You know, even in the championship run when they lost that year with Sunshine over there, Syracuse somehow, some way, whether they play in the Dome, whether they go down to Death Valley, wherever it is, like Syracuse seems to have the secret sauce for Clemson. I would only imagine this is a new team, new staff. Since the last time Syracuse was relevant, Clemson was relevant, and it counted for Syracuse to beat them. The last few times Syracuse beat them, they weren't having a great year. This is Syracuse's undefeated season on the line, and the respect of, as you will, the respect of the North. And so I can't wait to see this. This is going to be an interesting game, but Clemson should take it down. But again, I'm not going with Syracuse, but I'm definitely not sleeping on them.
Yeah, for sure, Darren. And it should know here that number 1 Georgia, of course, rolled 2. They beat Vanderbilt 55-0 going into their bye week. So, you know, they appear to be poised to do some good things here. Now, Ohio State will be back in action too for 2 after their bye week here this week. But I want to turn things to the Pac-12 next because there was a really big result there this week. A shootout in Utah that the Utes beat USC by 1 point, 43-42, and I feel like now that really puts the Pac-12 into play now that USC has lost.
Ooh, and it puts Utah in a great position from a standpoint of conference play. Okay, and man, that was a shootout that I did not expect. The Rising kid, oh my goodness, I mean, he threw for 415 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he ran for 3 touchdowns. Like, the kid had a total of 5 touchdowns on his own, and he threw the ball very well. He went 30 for 44. On a collegiate level, I always find it difficult when quarterbacks throw it for that many times. And they have a positive outcome. And what Utah does well is they create passes that are not always down the field. And whereas USC, they did not do a great job at that. He threw it 42 times. Hey, listen, the Williams kid, he threw 5 touchdowns, but his percentage was all over the place. I also didn't believe that USC ran the ball well enough for who USC is. I thought they should be able to push Utah. But again, I'm reminded, and this may be did you know, guys? I'm reminded that this Utah coach is the coach left over from Urban Meyer days. And so, listen, he got something going right that he took from Urban, and I'm looking forward to see if they can hold the line moving forward. But this USC team now, I think, will be out for the count in terms of the conference.
Yeah, and I think more a really important matchup coming. I believe both teams coming up 5 weeks too in UCLA and Oregon. Again, number 9 and number 10. Both those teams looking to really solidify themselves now, as you mentioned, USC losing, and really this conference kind of becoming wide open for play. I mean, what do you make of that matchup there next week? It's going to be up in Eugene, Oregon, so you know the Ducks are going to be quacking.
I'm not sure if this is a reunion game or not since Chip Kelly first going out there.
Yeah.
I think 2012 was when he went out there as an offensive coordinator. Look, this is big for Chip Kelly just to get that Oregon monkey off his back of success that he created there and has yet to really turn that back on. UCLA, he's undefeated. He's going back to Eugene. They'll heckle him. They'll love him. If he wins, they'll want him to come back. But all things, I think for Oregon, they need this W. They really do for the national race because they took their L early and they're still in it. This will solidify their L from Georgia and say, oh, wait, they just took it to the Bulldogs and they get after UCLA and they get after UCLA. This makes a very interesting conference for who will be the contender for the Pac-12 barring Utah stays undefeated. But I think this is the last test, legitimate test, ranked test for UCLA. And this is a must-win for Oregon for them to stay in the national conversation.
Well, I want to turn to the Big 12 here, too, because there was a big matchup there. And number 13, TCU, taking down number 8, Oklahoma State in double overtime, 43-40. OK State's got a big one coming up now, too, with number 20, Texas, this coming weekend. But the Horned Frogs here, Malik, do we need to start thinking about them as a possible threat to make the playoff?
Yes, we spoke to it a few weeks ago because they're steady Eddie. They're right where they want to be. They run in their early conversations. They're peaking. And I watched this game. Oklahoma State jumped out on TCU early. And so much so, I didn't know if TCU was going to be able to rebound from just letting Oklahoma State went up and down the field in the first quarter. TCU couldn't get a rhythm. The second quarter, they only walked away with 2 field goals. I'm like, yeah, this might get ugly. The fact that TCU turned it around, and the best part about them in the turnaround, they did not abandon the run game. That is traditionally now they're going to throw the pill all over the lot. Sonny Dykes is a baseball guy. That's what you do. You throw the ball, right? But he also committed to the run game along the way, so it didn't get away from them. So they didn't find themselves extremely behind the sticks. They ran the ball 43 times. TCU will be that team you find undefeated at the end. If they lose, it'll be in the title game. And at that point, people will be on to TCU. They'll know, oh, this team is legit. Let's scheme them up right now. Like, they're a quiet team that are starting to make noise, and they just beat a number 6 Oklahoma State. At this point, I would only expect them to win the conference, but I do not see them coming out of the playoff bracket after the first round, if they get there. But, yeah, they are a formidable opponent to get to the bracket.
Yeah, well, I mean, especially when the last 3 weeks you rattle off wins versus Oklahoma, Kansas, who is undefeated, then Oklahoma State. I mean, that really puts on the map. They have Kansas State next week, which would be an interesting one. We'll see how they do against that ranked opponent. And then Texas is their other big test at Baylor as well. So they have a few that they could potentially lose. But I'm with you. If they remain undefeated, there's no denying that they get a playoff spot. And it should be interesting as, maybe one of the dark horses there. But after looking at the top 25 heading into this coming week, I mean, are you satisfied, Malik, with everything that you see as the top 25 pick with any gripes about things? Obviously, a couple not ranked teams jumping in North Carolina and Tulane. A couple other teams moving up. Illinois, obviously, going up to 18 out of the 20s, and a couple teams dropping. But, what did you make of the top 25 after everything you saw when the dust settled?
Yeah, I think everything is right where you want it to be. I would also tell you Alabama is not tripping on their rank right now because the SEC is so strong. You have an Ole Miss who's undefeated. So, like, there's going to be a ton of opportunity for Alabama to get back to where they want to be just because of their opponents. But everyone else, I think they're winning the games they have to win. I think the ranks should go up and down, partly because the SEC sets the market right now. And based on who loses in the SEC or who wins, that's going to dictate the Dow Jones, And so the loss that I'm still just baffled on is USC. But again, it's just another reminder. It's hard to win. You got to respect your opponent, and everybody got something up their sleeve. And so Utah getting it done was the biggest surprise for me, considering all ranks.
And, of course, we need to close things out locally here. And it was a pretty darn good college football week, I must say, for the state of Maine. The Maine Black Bears won their second straight, beating Monmouth on homecoming, 38-28.
Yep.
UNE won their fourth game of the season. Hudson won their third game of the season. And two of the NESCAC Maine schools won. Colby winning their third game of the season, 17-12 against Amherst. And, of course, your old team from Bates winning the big game against Bowdoin, 21-14.
Well, boys, this was a big – Maine got something to say. I say it all the time. UMaine getting a dub, going back-to-back wins, that's huge. Beating Hampton, going down to Hampton, and then Monmouth coming up here to get that Black Bear fed. Like, listen, Coach Stevens look, you're only as good as your last game, and your last game is a win. Now it's trying to turn that win into another win. Same to be said for Coach Cohen at Bates. With a record holder, tackler holder, Tony Hooks over there. The CBB should be interesting. I don't know. Do they do a three-way tie? Is it a points that breaks the tie? I'm not sure. And so, yeah, man, look, football is good in Maine. And, being that Hudson won and UNE is getting it back on the road after taking the L to Hudson, it'll be an interesting closure for all of the football schools in Maine. And I got to shout out the home squad, Lewiston, getting it done again. Let's go. The mantra is family. Forget about me. I love you. Coach Versey over there and the Blue Devils are getting it done. So, hey, man, this was a great weekend for football and a great week for local ball.
And great to talk to you once again here. Malik Hall, he's the host of the Catch Up with Coach podcast. Former college football coach himself. We appreciate talking to you every week. Looking forward to doing it again next Monday.
Take care, guys, and keep it local.
All right. Again, Malik Hall. He hosts the Catch Up with Coach podcast. We will be right back here. We'll open the Joe Bornstein box office for you, too.
That's the Mannix boys. The Mannix brothers. The Mannix boys. Hey, I appreciate the Big Jab and the Mannix brothers for letting me give my, Monday morning quarterback addition or impression or whatever other word or verb or adjective, whatever. I appreciate you checking in. This is Catch Up with Coach. I am Malik Hall. Deuces.